It's a slow Thursday night at the Wingate Inn, just 3 weeks before Christmas. Rodney Castin, the hotel manager, is in the back office, crunching numbers. Carlos Torres mans the front desk.
Two men came quickly into the front lobby of the Wingate Inn together. One of these men came right at Carlos. He jumped the counter. He pointed a pistol in Carlos's face and demanded the money. Carlos opens the cash drawer, and he took the paper money out and handed it over. He turns away, and the guy strikes him in the head and says, "Where's the safe?" And that's when Rodney came out from the office.
The man continues to ask, "Where's the safe?" Rodney tells him there is no safe. And so he takes his .22 caliber handgun and shoots Rodney in the chest.
The two men flee. Carlos tries calling 911, but he panics and can't remember how to dial out. He runs to a nearby bowling alley to call for help. As police race to the Wingate Inn, paramedics try to save Rodney's life, but he's pronounced dead on arrival at Kennestone Hospital.
During my sleep, I thought I heard the doorbell. I opened the door, and it was Detective John Dawes, and he said, "Kelly, there was a shooting and a robbery at the hotel tonight, and Rodney was killed."
Back at the Wingate Inn, crime scene investigators comb every inch of the scene.
The cash drawer was not only open, but all the paper money was gone. The money taken was $304. Nearby on the floor, over against the baseboard, there was a projectile. It was a small caliber.
Then the crime scene technician calls attention to the hotel's front counter.
On the registration counter, she used a flashlight and illuminated what appeared to be a left palm print and the fingertips associated with that palm. Some of them smudged, some of them not.
Detectives turn to the crime's closest eyewitness, the injured and shaken desk clerk.
In the interview with Carlos Torres, we were able to determine that we were looking for a black male. He was estimated to be 20 to 25 years of age, wearing a white jersey, perhaps with a number on it, but his face wasn't covered.
12 days after Rodney's murder, detectives don't have a single suspect. By the new year, Cobb County investigators are hurting for leads and hang their last hope on the analysis of the print found at the scene.
We had eliminated fingerprints. It's not Carlos, it's not Rodney, it's not a hotel guest. So we had a good feeling that it was our guy. There were efforts made to identify that print through the ASFIS system, the automated fingerprint identification system. At the time, the system had been loaded up with a lot of fingerprints of people who had been in custody throughout the entire state of Georgia. We just didn't get a match at that time through AFIS.
Rodney's case goes cold in the Georgia autumn chill.
I'm in the office, and the intel analyst comes walking in the door, and he says, "I got a teletype out of Florida. There's a person with information about an armed robbery and murder that occurred at a hotel that had Wynn in the name, and it occurred north of Atlanta 12 years earlier." I jumped out of my chair because my first thought is I'm about to solve this case. So I'm talking to this deputy sheriff with Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, and he says, "You know, I'm assigned to a federal task force about human trafficking. I was involved in a federal arrest with this guy. He's pending federal human trafficking charges here in Florida. He's represented by an attorney, so I can't ask him any questions. It's his constitutional right and guarantee, and I can't interrupt that, so I gotta sit and wait. I get in touch with my fingerprint guy. Let's get this individual's prints, and let's do a manual comparison to the print from the counter at the Wingate Inn. So that was done, no match.
After confirming that the print does not belong to the man in Florida, Detective Dawes remembers AFIS, the automated fingerprint identification system, has evolved since 2000, when the prints found at the crime scene were first submitted for comparison.
In 2000, when you ran a print through AFIS, it was limited to looking at prints in your state. AFIS has now become a system where you can put a fingerprint in and see not only your state, you can see the entire United States.
And I said to my fingerprint guy, run the prints from the counter at the Wingate Inn. My fingerprint examiner came to me and he said, the left little finger, I got a match. And the guy's James Lorenzo Randolph. Within a week of Rodney Castin's murder, James Lorenzo Randolph was identified in an armed robbery of a sandwich shop in South Carolina. He was arrested in late December of 2000. He had done about 9.5 years in prison in South Carolina. I see a report that in December of 2000, my person with information down in Florida and my fingerprint matched James Lorenzo Randolph listed the exact same address as their home address in Columbia, South Carolina. One thing that always bothered me about the Wingate Inn is we didn't know how the guys got there and we didn't know how they left. But they got out of the area quickly because somebody drove them there and somebody drove them away. The guy with information in Florida, he's got to be a driver.
Detective Dawes gets an idea. He reaches out to the Florida attorney who had represented the man in his federal human trafficking case.
And I said, can you tell me anything? And he said, well, clearly I can't tell you anything because I was his lawyer. But I bet if you offer him something, some benefit, he may talk to you.
Detective Dawes returns to the Terre Haute Federal Prison to speak with the informant again, who is still serving his sentence for human trafficking.
I handed him a letter signed by Vic that said, we won't charge you with any crime associated with this incident in the state of Georgia. But you have to give me your truthful statement. One of the first things he said is, I won't tell you about the other guy. But he talked about driving, talked about James Lorenzo Randolph being in the back seat. They were getting ready to leave town, and James said, let me hit that place, that Wingate. So they pulled up that night. He was parked in the Cadillac and could see inside. He saw Randolph holding the pistol. He saw him hit Carlos Torres with it. He saw him get the bag with money. He saw Rodney come out. He saw the gun being pointed. And then he saw the muzzle flash and knew that James Lorenzo Randolph had just shot Rodney Castin.
James Lorenzo Randolph is charged with felony murder, aggravated assault, and armed robbery.
We were obviously concerned about the informant, but in the end, the individual stood up, took an oath, and laid out the entire facts of the case, including identifying Randolph as, in fact, the shooter that shot Rodney.
With Rodney's family looking on, the jury finds James Lorenzo Randolph guilty on all counts. James Lorenzo Randolph is serving 3 life sentences plus 35 years at Washington State Prison.
Rodney right now would be 57 years old. The world missed out on just an abundance of love and compassion